Yeah, greetings to everyone on YouTube. Today we're going to be working on this 2015 Ram 2500. We're going to be taking and removing the front left axle shaft to replace the universal joint in it. And just a general overview here before we get serious and get going. I already have the truck lifted up, so that's taken care of already, and now we're going to be removing the lug nuts with our 22mm socket and our convenient cordless impact wrench. It's old reliable. I've had this about 5 years, and so far they're turning right off. No problem on that. Now comes the fun part, is lifting this 20-inch tire wheel off. I've had these off before. It's not my truck, but I've worked on it before for a gentleman. It's going to be stuck to the rotor, but now we got it, just a slight kick. And there, we'll roll that out of the way. And I'm going to take here, even though I have that combination jack stand jack under the truck, I'm going to lay the tire under the truck. And now we're going to remove this nut in the middle that holds the axle shaft. Furthermore, that's one of the reasons I'm working outside, is because the truck is too high to fit in my garage. And there's the socket we're going to be using to remove this nut. I'm using a 1 5/16 inch and using a 3/4 inch drive ratchet here to initially break it free, with holding the pry bar there, if you see, wedged into the ground. Now it's turning pretty easy. We can just grab our impact wrench and we'll just send it off of there. And that concludes that, and there is the large nut taken off, and that's taken care of. Now we're going to get the brake caliper here out of our way next. Excuse the camera, there's a smudge of grease on it, but it goes away here shortly. And there's the location of the lower caliper bolt, and up here, just show you here sort of as good as we can here back behind, there's the upper caliper bolt, and I'm going to take and remove the upper caliper bolt here to begin with, and that is a 5/8 inch socket I'm using. Fits on it nice, and yeah, they're turning free. Last year I put brakes and rotors on this approximately 1 year ago, so that's sort of one reason everything is coming apart pretty good, except for that large nut. Of course, I didn't have to do that to put brakes and rotors on it, and there we're getting the lower caliper bolt, and that's coming, no problem, and there, that's turning free. And once they're broke free, I'm just turning them out, no problem, just turning the bolt out the rest of the way with my finger, and thumb and index finger, and out she comes. There's that one, and the top one here, we'll go grab it and take it out the whole way. I only loosened it to begin with till I for sure removed the outer bolt, and there we go on that. And once we get this taken out, we're going to have to take and get this caliper out of our way, and put the bolts there wherever we can find them, and taking the pry bar here to start the caliper off. It's being a little bit stubborn. Actually, that's an understatement. It's just being contemptible, downright. But we are going to win here, but it is, for just being on again for 1 year, it's not being the most user-friendly here, but prying, pulling, and there it comes. Now we're going to have to take and get that out of our way. I'm going to show you here. You don't want to let it hang by the flex hose. I'm going to take and put it back here between the frame and on that neck and trailing arm on the front axle, and that should stay put. Although, if you're concerned about it, you can take a piece of wire or bungee strap and wrap around it, but I'm convinced it's going to be fine. And then we're going to take and pull our brake pads herself off. And again, just sort of like the caliper, it's a tight fit, but there we go. Perhaps maybe a little bit more prying, and there is the pad, and you can see lots of wear left on that. Like I say, that's been a year ago. I don't know how many miles the person that owns the truck did drive it. And there's their other one taking out the inboard pad. And we'll take and again lay those out the way, and then we'll go here and we're going to get the bracket that holds the caliper itself taken off. So we're going to go grab here the ratchet and the socket we're going to be using, and we'll get these turned up. And we're definitely going to take here and go up to the, instead of the 3/8 drive like we were using, the 1/2" drive ratchet. And there's a 24mm socket. And we're going to take, that's the size, it seems to fit nice on it, and see if we can get them turned free. And yep, no, again, since it was apart last year, and it's turning right out. These are pretty good sized bolts. Of course, on the other hand, it's a pretty good sized brake caliper that's heavy, so I guess they need pretty good sized bolts to hold the bracket, to hold the caliper, to support the weight. And there's one of them out. And just look at it. Now we're going to grab the one out of the top. Furthermore, with this assembly, if you remove the bottom one first, you can take it the whole way out, because when you're busting it free, you're putting pressure downwards. The bracket's not going to come flying up in the air, because you're going again. But now if you take the top one out first and lower them the whole way, then you run into that problem. But okay, and there's that. Or simply you could just loosen them both and then take them off. And there's our bracket, and there, just take it out. And now we're just going to take and we're going to slide the rotor off of it, which should come off. Again, since I had it apart last year. Now I had trouble last year taking them off when I put the new ones on, but yep, off she is. And there's our wheel bearing assembly. It, lug nut studs and all that good stuff. But I'm going to take and turn the wheel to get these wheel bearing bolts, so it'll be easier with the wheel turned out away from the truck, that you can get and more leverage when you take to turn them loose with the wrench, because I have a feeling these are going to be pretty tight. I've never replaced the wheel bearing on this for the gentleman. I doubt if they've been off, but never will be using an 18mm socket is what the size are on these bolt heads. Yeah, I think you get the drift. Why I did turn the wheel out. It helps you a little bit. It's not as so much back in. But before we even try turning these, we're going to spray them up with a little bit of, I'm using PB Blaster, but PB Blaster, WD-40, whatever is your choice. And there's a socket on, and we'll go see how this is going to work. Okay, there you can see. They don't really give you, again, a lot of room on getting into this, and we'll see if it turns free. They're taking, using the hand for a hammer, which isn't the best idea. Now I'm taking it. Now the wrench falls off, so that's not, never using the ball peen hammer again, and there it is, broke free, and it's turning out. That wasn't real bad, better than I thought it was going to be. And we'll get in closer there and let you see actually the progress of the bolt turning out. And it's, again, now one down, only 3 more to go. But that's a good start. Better again than I was picturing. And now it's just finger tight, and just finished turning it out using, like I say, the fingers and the thumb and all that good stuff. And there she be. Okay, that's, might as well, since we have the steering wheel turn. Now this one I'm going to need to use a short extension. The socket alone, it won't go on with the ratchet. But this short extension and the ratchet, you can get into it, and let's see if this one breaks free. And yeah, that's not going so good. Never tried. But there, with the extension, the hammer thing's not, you're losing too much torque. And yep, that's all my might on it. That's not going to go. So we're going to use a little bit of a cheater tool here. Been there, done this. Okay, it wasn't too bad, and it's free. And now we'll turn that one out. Oh, and if you notice the pipe I was using, that's where you don't pay to throw anything away. That was a handle from a jack I had that quit working like 10 years ago, but I kept the handle and it works. I've used it before. And now, again, that was just turning out. And okay, there is 2 down. Before we go on further, just show you a general overview where we did remove the bolts. They're sort of, again, hidden up in there, but there you can see where they do sit exactly. Without a doubt, they are not the most accessible. Again, this wasn't bad. These were not real tight, but if you'd have ones that were extremely tight, it would be more interesting. But then again, let's turn the wheel the other way and let's get these other 2. Oh, in addition, I split this video in 2 parts. The part 1 here is the disassembly, and then if you want to know how it goes back together, there's going to be a part 2. And then there's actually going to be sort of an independent video of actually putting in the universal joint in itself. I've used my sharp press on removing the old one and then put the new one in using proper hammers and some of my old tricks. And there you can see the location of the other two wheel bearing bolts in there. Okay, let's see how we can get in on them. And here, just taking that, surprisingly, that one wasn't that bad. That and maybe just the deal with how you could pull one up on the ratchet by pushing up just a better angle. But yeah, that one turned right out. That one went real nice. Yeah, I haven't did one of these universal joints in the front end since back in the 90s. Had a lot of Chevy trucks and Suburbans. But I say everything now I've had's basically just been CV joints in the front, or like I have rear wheel drive car. Well, then there's none of the above. But yeah, this is sort of old school and a pretty new era vehicle. And lo and behold, there is bolt number 3 out. So we just have one more to go here. See how this one and we got it there. Okay, get in on it. I'm trying to get the camera there as you can see it, and well, maybe not. And we're gonna have to use the cheater bar on this one. Oh well, that's not too bad to use the cheater bar. Okay, and there it's turning, and now we'll be able to just get it the rest of the way. Okay, and there it's turning. Okay, now since it's freed up, I'm going to come in from down below on it, where I don't need to worry about getting the cheater pipe on it since it's broke free, and that gives you a little bit more the area you can take and turn the ratchet, making quite a bit more progress at a faster pace this way of doing it. And for all practical purposes, this one is all butted out, just a couple more turns in there. And I'm going to just have to keep the extension on. It's not the easiest to get in with your fingers, but there we pulled it out, and okay, there's number 4. Now I'm going to take and straighten back out again the front steering knuckle. And now, before we get real serious on taking this wheel bearing itself off, after we straighten this, we're going to bend down here this wire for the anti-lock brakes and take it out of its clip so it has enough room to lay out of the way without trying to get that sensor out of the wheel bearing itself, because they always break, but there's no need to have to pull it out. But we're just going to take, and you can see the location of these clips for the wire for the ABS sensor. Furthermore, you notice most of them just like slide in. There's a rubber grommet around the wire, they just slide in. And now this one here around it fastens to the brake lines a little bit. It also just slides on. You can just pull that back around, and that's plenty of play in it. It'll let it sit down on the ground without hanging by the wire. And there's probably where you should tie your brake caliper up in place, but there is 2 more we're going to undo, just to be extra sure. Okay, and now I'm going to take a 10mm socket, and we're going to remove the brake dust shield. Undoubtedly, you could take the wheel bearing off without taking this brake dust shield off, but it's less chance of butchering the brake dust shield up while you're doing it. And these bolts are coming right out so far. That wouldn't take much to snap them off, but again, they're not, in this case, very tight. You're just going to have to make your decision on the one you're working on if they're going to turn out or snap off. But these are, again, simply turning out. And there's one more here down on the bottom to take out. And then, again, we'll have that out of our way. Again, you could pound the wheel bearing off, but you'll see shortly here it's easier with it off too. Yes, surprisingly, the vehicle, of course it is 7 years old, it's getting there, but not yet. They are in good shape, these brake dust shields, because I know a lot of stuff in where I live, the northeast, the salt climate, they're rusted away till this stage of the game, and now that also, like I say, gives us, if you see what I'm saying, the wheel bearing, we're going to have to break it free from the steering knuckle. With that brake dust shield, that gives you a little bit easier way to pound. And then just start tapping around the edge. I had sprayed it good with PB Blaster. Okay, that's not really sure if we're making any headway here or not on it yet, but I'm going to take here and try a finer chisel to begin with. And maybe that'll work, because it didn't seem like with the chisel I was using it was doing a lot. But again, the finer chisel point, it gives you more chance to break the rust free between the knuckle and the wheel bearing. And lo and behold, you can see it is starting to break free. You can see that absolutely for certain at this stage of the time. Now, a little bit more, we're going to take and use the smaller chisel, and down here at the bottom, get it a little bit as good as we can. It's not as easy to get to the bottom edge, but try to work evenly around it as it's starting to pull free from the steering knuckle. Yeah, this actually is not coming real bad. It's been a little bit of a problem, but I'd say just about average. I've had them come off maybe a little easier, and then I've had, yes, one or so, not on these Dodge trucks, but I literally sprayed, pounded with the chisel and hammer for hours till you broke them free. At least on those, there was cases the wheel bearing was why it was coming apart, but yeah, this isn't going real bad. Also, if you have any questions, if you're doing one, you can feel free to post them in the comments down below, and I'll respond to them as soon as I can. But again, with this video, should answer, if you're first time doing this, but the pictures and that should answer most of the questions you need and what tools are required for the job. And now that we have a gap, we're going to use the larger chisel, and we're going to make the gap bigger, and eventually, yeah, you can see it moved quite a bit on that. Yeah, it's not far, we can soon just take and pull it off here, but just not quite yet, because the actual shaft itself the spline is holding, and I'm just real carefully using the rounded part of the bolt peen hammer, real carefully tapping without damaging the threads on the axle itself, just to get it loose from the teeth and where the axle sits in the wheel bearing, and just a little bit more nice and careful. And now, there we go. And there's again why you needed the wire, so you could lay it out of the way. And now we're going to just take a crowbar and give a small pry, and there we got our axle shaft. And that, once you're to this stage, you'll just take and it just pulls out. And there's our axle shaft out, complete with our wore out universal joint. It's had its better days. You can see that, and a lot of slop in that. The guy said it was really making a lot of noise, and so it would. Thank you for watching.